Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Coming to JCU webinar. So I'm just sharing my screen now, and we'll kick off with some important information. If you need to contact the International Student Support Team, there's our website, our email address on the screen there now. And I believe Avinash has already shared that in the chat. Okay, when you do arrive at JCU, you will get to meet the awesome International Support Team in person. As I said, we're really excited to see you. And today we're just going to go through a little bit of what to pack, what to plan for, and what you can expect when you do get here in the first few days. Okay, up in Cairns, we have the lovely Avinash, as you've already met on screen. We also have Christine Martin in the middle of that photograph. She's one of our international student advisors, and we also have Shangyang Guo. She's one of our international student advisors. Again, you would not meet three more friendly people if you searched the whole world over. They're very keen to help you in any way they can up in Cairns. And then on the Townsville campus, you've already been introduced to myself and Linda, but we also have Alex Salvador. He is a student advisor, and he also looks after the Australian Award Scholars. We have Linda Ram, who's our go-to girl for pretty much everything, and Catherine Elliott, who's also one of the student advisors, and we're really excited to meet you all. So let's get started. What we would really encourage you to do is to do some research before you come. Obviously, you've done a whole lot of research in some respect, in that you've decided you're going to come to JCU. But we'd encourage you to do a little bit more research around life in Australia and living and studying at JCU. So there are a couple of Facebook groups that students find very, very useful. If you go onto Facebook and you just type in Townsville, JCU Internationals, if you're coming to the Townsville campus, and if you're going to the Cairns, just type Cairns, JCU Internationals. You can request to join those groups, and we will approve your request. Because within that group, we have a lot of existing students sharing information about what's happening in the city, accommodation that's become available, if they're selling their bike or they're selling furniture, a whole range of things. You can meet other students from your course. So one of your homework items to do today, people, is go onto Facebook and request to join those groups. It would also be really handy to go and have a look at some of those JCU Facebook pages. If you're an Instagram person, that's the handle that you need to follow for James Cook Uni and the JCU Student Life. Living in Townsville and living in Cairns, there's a few there for you as well. Another great avenue of information is the James Cook University YouTube channel. So many videos on there, a lot of students speaking about their experience in their course, and a lot of students, there's virtual campus tours. You can go on there and have a look and zoom around the campus and have a look. It's a whole range of stuff. I won't go into everything. Now, before I hand over to the lovely Claire, I just really wanted to reiterate two important things, or two main terminologies that are used in JCU. So two key words you need to understand. The first one is enroll, because at JCU we talk about enrolling into a subject. Once you're enrolled in a subject, from within that, you then register for the times that you want to attend the classes. So there's one word is enroll, the other word is register. They mean two different things, but Claire will probably go over that a little bit more. And again, we'll send all this information out to you later. So over to you, Claire. I'll stop sharing for a moment and I'll let you share your screen.
And pretty much my role and in our team is we help students. Sorry, I'm just going to actually start that presentation. What we can help you with is, so we can provide you with information on subject or course advice. We can also help you, like Louise said, there's different terms. So we've got, you can enroll in your subjects, and we can help you register for your classes. We can also provide you with help and advice regarding credit. So if you've previously studied another course at another institution and you might be studying a similar kind of course, you might be eligible for credit. So we can help you with relation to that. We also can help you with information regarding your fees as well as financial support. We're also the one-stop shop on campus that if you wanted to pay your tuition fees in person, you would come to us. ID cards, you definitely need an ID card once you have enrolled in your subjects. And as students, you are entitled to get a concession sticker for the public transport. As I'm aware, most of you won't have your own transport, so you will rely on public transport. So definitely look at getting one of those stickers. We also look at academic records, completion letters, and we can help you in terms of things of your results as well as important dates. So definitely a one-stop shop, and we're definitely here to help you. So I mentioned before that your ID card is something that you're going to have to get once you're enrolled. So you can order your ID card through the online portal, which is known as Capture Me. Pretty much if you type in ID card into or student ID card into the website, it will take you to the link and you can provide a photo. You've just got to make sure that it meets the requirements. So you have a clear background, obviously you're center facing, and you don't have any sort of filters or anything like that. And once it's approved, it gets printed and you can collect it once you arrive at JCU. And you can also get your tertiary transport sticker to go on your ID card at the same time. So definitely get those two things from us. We as client services, we get asked a lot of questions. So what we've done is we've compiled a database known as Ask Us, because there is no silly question. So Ask Us is the portal through the website that you can literally type in any questions such as things like, where can I get coffee on campus? And it will populate answers for you. So if you're ever stuck or it's after hours, Ask Us is 24/7. So it's definitely a worthwhile to sort of look at that. It also provides different information as well. We try to put it in the perspective of a student, and we've gained feedback from other students on what the answers are most commonly helpful. Another important thing that you'll have to know about once you start studying at JCU is our important dates. So we have a lot of different dates and they all mean different things. Probably the most important ones are the census date and payment date. We have calendars for different study periods or trimesters. If you go onto our JCU website and type in dates or important dates, you'll be able to find our calendars. And I've got an example of what our calendars look like on the screen now. So definitely have a look over those. It's all color coded. So you can see here census date for trimester 2, it's in the orange, and it's the 23rd of June. And the payment due date is in the yellow, and it's the 13th of June. So definitely make sure you keep an eye on what the important dates are and maybe pencil them down in your diary. Another important aspect that we can help you with, obviously, as a current student, we support you and provide a lot of information. So we have a designated section on our website just for you guys. So the current students webpage, it looks like this. It actually provides a bit of a central location for all of the systems that you're going to need while you're studying with us. So Learn JCU is where you get all of your subject content. Your student email is where all of your JCU communication will be sent to. eStudent is where you will have to do things like enroll in your subjects, register for your classes. You can see your grades in eStudent. You can also do things like update your address, update your contact details, and you can see your finances in eStudent as well. Students Online is where you can find information out regarding your exams. And the course handbook, this is where, depending on what course you're admitted to, it will provide you an overview of your course structure. And like I mentioned before, Ask Us is on the website. So see here, you can literally type in any question into here and it will populate some information for you. But if, of course, if you have a question that it doesn't populate an answer for you, please don't feel afraid to come and see us at the student centres. We have student centres in Cairns and Townsville. So we're definitely always available to help, and there is no such thing as a silly question. As Lou touched on before, there is a bit of a process when it comes to your enrolment. So probably the first thing that we would recommend that you do is download your course enrolment planner and review your course handbook. Now, I'll show you in a little bit where you can find the course enrolment planners or what they look like, but pretty much they're designed to show what your enrolment should be over the course of your degree. And it's something that you can use each year. It also helps you know to make sure you're enrolling in the right subjects at the right time. The important dates that I mentioned before, it also talks to things like your last date to enroll in your subjects or to register for your classes. So it's very important to make sure that you enroll and register for classes before the due dates. And when you log on to eStudent, that's where you'll enroll in your subjects. It's located under My Study Plans. And if you click on the section on the side that says Study Plans, it lists everything there. It can be a little bit tricky at times to know what to enroll into and how to enroll into. But if you ever get stuck, just drop into the Student Centre and we can help you. Or if you ever have to make some complex sort of changes to your study plan, you can always come and see one of the enrolment officers that we have at the student centres, and they can help you as well with that. Lastly, in eStudent, you have the registration process. So this is where you can search for the My Timetable tab, and it will go through when your classes are for each subject. And if you've got clashes between your courses and you can't, get it to work, definitely pop in and see us because we can help you alleviate some of those concerns. As I mentioned before, course enrolment planners, or sometimes you'll hear the term CEP, they're on our website. And if you type in course enrolment planner or CEP, it will take you to a web page that looks very similar to this, where it has listed in alphabetical order all of the courses that we have. A lot of our undergraduate courses are there, and most of our postgraduate courses are there. So they go through and provide you all of the information you need in order to enroll. If for whatever reason a course enrolment planner for the course that you're studying isn't on the website, just contact us and we'll be able to source that for you and send you a copy, because we don't at any point in time want you to not know what to enroll into. In eStudent, I mentioned before that there's a lot of different sort of things that you can do in this space. So you can see here, this is a little screenshot of the different sections of eStudent. So I mentioned before, you can change your details, you can enroll, and this is where you do it in My Study Plans. There's the My Timetable for your class registration. My Finances provides you with all of the information regarding your fees, and if you want to make any payments, you can. The Results and Graduation tab will obviously provide all of your results, and as you get closer to finishing your course, it will provide you with graduation information as well. There are some additional resources that we have available to you in order to help with your enrolment, because it can be a little daunting and a little overwhelming, but that's okay. We're here to help, and we do have resources. So if you type in enrolment onto the JCU website, it will take you to our current enrolment page. And there's a lot of different sections here that will go through, as I previously mentioned, applying for credit for previous study, or if you want to make any changes to your course, and the steps to enroll. So I would definitely have a look at this page when you guys have a chance. The other one that is available to you guys as students is you can book a one-on-one appointment with an enrolment officer. They are available pretty much in the lead up to courses starting. So in the lead up to trimester 2 starting, you would be able to book an appointment time with an enrolment officer. There are several times throughout the year that there are drop-in sessions, so you can pop into the student centre at any time and there might be someone available to see you. But if there's not, there are appointments available. They do offer them face-to-face via phone or Zoom, but obviously if you're already studying on campus, you might as well pop in and see someone. So if you ever get stuck, you can just type in book an appointment and it'll come up for you. The other thing that's really important, and I highly encourage you to have a look at this information, is subject search. So subject search is part of the website where it has all of the content, all of the information, relating to individual subjects. So from here, as you can see, you can find a description of what the subject is and what your anticipated learning outcomes will be. It also provides you with information such as when is the subject offered, when is the census date of that subject, and also the course coordinator details. The subject coordinator details, which is very important that you get to know them, as well as who your lecturers might be. It also includes information such as what the workload and what the assessment information will be. So if you're ever really not sure about a subject, and especially if you have to pick electives and you're not sure what the subject is going to cover, the subject search will be able to provide that information for you. Our biggest 3 tips that we can give you is ask. I've said it 1,000 times tonight, and you'll probably hear me say it 1,000 times again, and I'm sure Louise and the rest of the team will too. There is no such thing as a silly question. Everyone is here to help and is always more than willing to answer a question. And if they don't know, I'm sure they'll be able to find the answer. So make sure you ask your lecturers, your library staff, your course coordinators, your subject coordinators. It's better to ask to try and find the information rather than not knowing it all. We are real people and we're definitely here to help you. So don't be afraid to drop in when you're going past the student centre if you've got a concern or you're not sure about something. And if you're not on campus, you can give us a call. We've got a phone number that you can call us on, or we've got online chat. So we can definitely make contact with you in one way or another. The third one is to make use of the resources that JCU has. So we have things like the Learning Centre, Studiosity, we have information sessions run by the library. There's all sorts of subscriptions and journal articles that are available to you as JCU students. We have the Careers and Wellbeing team, and as well as the JCU Student Association. And of course, you've got the International Student Support team, who are pretty top notch, and definitely make sure you get in contact with them. Okay, so how can you get in contact with us? So obviously we have 2 student centres. We've got one in Cairns, which is in building 134 in Townsville, and in Cairns, it's in building A1. We are open 9 to 5 every day except for weekends and public holidays, except for Wednesdays. We don't start until 10:30. And you'll see here, here's a little snippet of how you can get in contact with us. So you can send us an email to inquiries@jcu.edu.au. You can call us on the 1-800 number. You can live chat with us. And if you go on to any page on the website and an agent is available, it will have a box that will come up saying live chat. You can book a callback request from us, or of course, there's Ask Us that's available to you. So definitely have a look, guys, and please don't be a stranger at all in the slightest. And we look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. I'll hand you back to Lou now.
Thank you so much, Claire. That was really informative. I can't tell you guys enough how helpful the staff at the front desk are at the Student Centre. If you have any questions at all, come on into the Student Centre and they'll be able to help you. If you have a really complex question that's specific to being an international student, then you can ask to see one of the international support team. But generally, the enrolments, the people on the front desk, the student services team and the enrolments team are really knowledgeable on everything to do with your studies, and they'll be able to sort you out. So thank you again, Claire. And Avanesh has shared lots of the links in the chat. But I'll just pause before we go on any further and ask if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask. Oh, Leanne has one. We're supposed to attend the orientation on campus on the 27th. Yes, that's correct. You will be required to attend the orientation on the 27th, which is Friday, 27th of May. It's at 9 o'clock. Thanks, Linda. And yeah, if you're not sure where to go, just head to the student centre and they'll be able to direct you there. Now, all of what we've covered today in the pre-arrival pre-departure webinar will be covered in more detail in the orientation session as well. All right, I will share my screen again and we will kick on with the next part of the presentation, which is about accommodation. Many of you have probably already arranged accommodation, but for some of you who may not have, or you may be just looking at some temporary accommodation for a week or two until you find out where you want to live, you can find out a whole lot of information on accommodation available. We have on-campus accommodation on both Townsville and Cairns. Up in Cairns, we have the Uni Lodge, which is called the John Gray Halls. And currently we have 40 rooms still available in Cairns. That's the beautiful photo there you can see on the side with the orange and yellow coloured buildings. But they are filling up fairly quickly. And also just across the road from the campus in Cairns, we have the Cairns Student Lodge. Now, this is a privately run accommodation, but it's fantastic. It's very close to the university and majority of the people who stay there are university students. And they currently have 45 rooms available. So there's still plenty of accommodation close to campus or on campus in Cairns. In Townsville, we have on-campus accommodation in a number of residences, and all of which have vacancies at the moment. If you want to have your meals cooked for you and a meal plan included in your accommodation, you can stay at the George Roberts Hall, which is also run by Uni Lodge. At the moment, they have 22 rooms available. If you'd like to do your own cooking in a shared kitchen, you can stay at the Rotary International House. They've got 9 rooms left there. Or you can stay at the brand new Baralga Yumba residence, actually, and they're filling up very quickly. So I'm not sure what availability they have at the moment, but you can contact them through the website that's on the screen at the moment. Okay, if you're wanting to stay off campus, there are lots of options off campus. Availability of rooms or whole houses does vary depending on, just what's happening at the time. There are temporary accommodations, so you can stay in a backpackers, hostels or Airbnb. But then when for longer term accommodation for the 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, you need to go to flatmates.com is a good place, sharehouses.com. Or you can also go to any of the sites that I've shared on the screen at the moment. The Cairns Kangaroos, My Haven in Cairns, and then, you can also just look that up. There's a couple of really good Facebook pages that university students and just locals in Townsville advertise if they've got a room available, and they're up on the page now. So it's the JCU Townsville accommodation and the JCU Cairns accommodation. There are often other students just looking for another roommate. So you usually have your own room and you pay an amount towards rent per week as well as electricity and stuff. So certainly lots of options available to you. Let me see. Linda, were you going to talk about this next slide?
Hi, yes. I was just answering a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, do we need to answer them?
So one person was asking if about what fully vaccinated means, and I've included a link in the chat to the Australian government's definition of what fully vaccinated means, so you can check that and what proof you need. Somebody also asked about what happens if they don't get their visa in time. So you need to arrive in week 1. If you aren't able to arrive by the end of week 1, you need to defer your offer to a future study period. But we do hope that you get a visa in time. We know some people are experiencing delays with processes. You might consider contacting a migration agent to see if there's an alternative visa that you can travel on, but we're not able to give advice on that, unfortunately. I might get started on booking your travel. So let's all hope that you do get your visas in time. We really recommend you arrive in time for the international orientation. Reason is it's a really great morning. You will be assigned to a Crocs international mentor who will help you settle in. You'll get to have a bit of morning tea. You'll meet the team. We know that students who who attend the orientation tend to settle in better. So if you are not, you should also book your free arrival pickup service. So that's where we will arrange for you to be picked up from the airport and taken to your accommodation. So there's that link is now in your in the chat box. So if you haven't booked that, please do that soon, so that when you get here, you don't have to worry about finding a taxi or booking an Uber. The other thing to be mindful of is that if you are not flying directly into Townsville or Cairns, you will need to organise your travel from your arrival city. So a lot of international flights go through Brisbane, Sydney or Melbourne. So you will need to book your onward travel to Townsville or Cairns. Remember, Australia is a big country. Brisbane is around 1,400 kilometres away from Townsville. So if you land in Brisbane, you won't be able to just hop on a bus. You'll need to book some transport onwards. The other thing, sorry, just going back to booking the arrival service, is if you are delayed for some reason, if your flight is delayed, please let us know by emailing the international support team. And we can only take bookings if you tell us at least 1 week ahead. If you book the service the day before, we may not be able to arrange to pick you up. So please make sure you've booked that service well in advance so that we know when to expect you. The other options is, if you don't book the arrival service, is there are airport shuttles available at both Cairns and Townsville Airport. There's also taxis and rideshare services like Uber. Okay, now I'm going to hand over to Avinash about the cost of living, because he has recent experiences being an international student, so he'll be able to tell you what to really expect living in Australia. So Avinash, I'll pass to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Linda. Yeah, so cost of living is basically, it always depends on the student to student, but in general, Australia is quite expensive, especially people coming from Asia Pacific countries. You find it very expensive with some of the basic things that you find, like especially with the food and groceries or the transportation and stuff. But other than that, you can always plan your cost of living, and also it depends on what kind of accommodation that you choose and where do you live, both in Cairns and Townsville. For example, if you're living in on-campus accommodation, the prices would be different. But if you choose your own accommodation, then you might save some money over there. But at the same time, you have to balance your studies and your personal life. So it always depends on you. But as an international student, if you ask my suggestion, what I did was I stayed at the on-campus accommodation for 1 year so that I got used to the campus and my studies, and I got to know about some people over here. And then when I felt very comfortable, then I moved to the city where I explored with some opportunities, including my work placement. So again, it always depends on you. And an important information here is, if you're looking for an off-campus accommodation, for example, if you living in a shared house, or if you want to rent a house with your friends that you already have here, or with your classmates or the course mates, you really need to understand how this renting works in Australia and especially in Queensland. So we already shared those links in your chat box. So please do have a look at that. And also, you need to know that there is an advance payment that you have to pay. It's called a bond money. So some places they ask for like a 4 weeks rent. So in Australia, usually you pay not by monthly basis, but the weekly basis. So you really need to plan that way. So you have to pay 4 weeks rent and also in advance, and 2 weeks, 4 weeks as a bond money and 2 weeks as an advance. So remember those details, and also talk to someone who is already living. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to International Student Support if you need any help with those things. But make sure you do your research as well to learn about those things. And if you're, and there are prices changes between, the cost of living changes again when you're choosing your flat, if it's a furnished or unfurnished. So you always have to know about those things. But I do recommend that make sure you bring at least $2,000 with you so that you can feel, secured here. And going back to next slide, it's open a bank account. So opening bank account is quite different from where you're from, I guess, but it's very easy. So now you're already, now you're in offshore, so you can still open the bank account in Australia by going to, so these are the 4 big banks in Australia. So you can always go to their websites and check for, migrant banking or international student banking. So you can open a bank account. Once you arrive on shore, you can, visit the bank and give the required details, and then you can get the bank account. And Australia is pretty well connected, and almost everything is online. So you really don't need to visit the bank for any services. Everything can be resolved online. But if you do have to go to the bank, they're very quite accessible. You can find those 4 bank branches all over the city, and there are ATMs available everywhere around the. In Townsville, there's one ATM, but not in Cairns, and also there are nearest shopping centers, so you can always go there to find the ATMs. But otherwise, you can always use your debit cards and stuff. So, yep, cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Avinash. There is one question in the chat about what else should I bring when it comes to study. They're bringing their laptop. So it really depends on what you're studying. But in general, if you are studying a standard sort of business course, you just a laptop and any stationery is all you would need. If you are studying a specialist course, for example, medicine or science, where you might need a lab coat or a stethoscope, you can purchase those here. But yeah, nothing special. We've got a lot of resources here. We've got Wi-Fi, and shops are handy. And Shamsuddin has asked if there are ATMs on campus. The answer is yes. We have 2 on the Townsville campus, and some in the shops that are handy. So most payments in Australia are done by card, so you don't actually need a lot of cash. So yeah. Now, I might get started on medication, but feel free to please keep putting questions in the chat box, and we'll answer them as we go. Now, you are only allowed to bring medication for yourself. You're not able to bring it for other people. If it's a prescription medication, you need to bring the prescription with you, and you're only allowed to bring a 3-month supply. Australia has very strict rules regarding medications, and so it's important that you be careful around that. Having said that, don't worry about not being able to get your medication, because in Australia, you in the first instance need to see a doctor. We call them a general practitioner or GP. We have one on campus in Townsville. We have a GP clinic on campus in Townsville, and there is one very close to the campus in Cairns. And they will direct bill your Allianz health insurance. So in the first instance, you see your doctor, they will issue you a new prescription, and then you can buy your prescription from a chemist or a pharmacy, which you might know as a drugstore. So it's quite, we have most medications here. It's very unusual for students to not be able to get their medication. Now, the other thing you should consider about your health and well-being is that the emotional side of moving to a new country away from your support network. So you should expect that you'll have highs and lows. When you first arrive, a lot of people think of that as the honeymoon period where everything is wonderful. And then you hit culture shock and it all's a bit difficult. Then you get used to things and it takes some time to process everything. And then finally, you'll just start feeling at home. And then it's time for you to go back to your home country. So if you can expect highs and lows, you can plan for them. I might get you to switch to the next slide, please, Lou, and I'll talk through how you can plan to manage the highs and lows. So one piece of advice is to make the unfamiliar familiar. So that slide has lots of pictures of people in their bedrooms at home. So if you think how you cope when things are tough at home, you try to make that the way you do things here. So you can bring even familiar shampoo will make you feel more comfortable. Eating familiar foods, listening to music that comforts you, that's one way to make yourself make this very unfamiliar environment feel more comfortable and familiar for you. Also, in Australia, it's important to make time to look after your well-being. You should ask for help when you need it. I know a lot of our students come from cultures and countries where that's not usual, whereas in Australia, we encourage you to seek help. We have free counselling, we have accessibility services for students who either have a temporary or long-term disability or injury or medical or mental health condition that can support you in your studies. You don't have to struggle through on your own. There are people to help. We also have a multi-faith chaplaincy where you can meet your faith needs on campus, or they can link you with your faith community out in the Townsville and Cairns community. So there's a link there where you can learn more about the personal support that is available to you on campus. Okay, I'm going to pass over to Lou now, who is going to talk to you about the practical stuff, the things that you should put in your bag when you come to Australia. Thanks, Lou.
Thanks, Linda. That was really important information about the medication and seeing a GP or a doctor when you arrive to Australia to make sure you've got what you need. So for some of you, you've probably travelled the world over, lots of times been on international flights, but for others, this might be your first big international flight. A couple of things to be mindful of. The baggage limit for international flights might be a lot more than you're allowed to once you arrive in Australia. As Linda mentioned before, most of your flights will either come into Sydney, Melbourne, perhaps Brisbane. Some of them might go directly to Cairns. But you need to be mindful that if your international flight allows you 35 kilograms of luggage, when you get to Cairns, or when you get to Brisbane and then you're flying into Townsville, that will be a lot less. Usually the domestic flight within Australia only allows 23 kilograms. So that's something just to be very mindful of. You may need to just pay for extra baggage for your internal domestic flights. Just mind that. You can check the baggage limit on your Australian flights by going to the airline's website. We just don't want you to get caught out at the airport and have to pay a large sum of money to get your bag here. The other thing to bear in mind is you should really pack, before I go to that one, you should really pack copies of your important documents. So Have photocopies of all of your important documents, any of your qualifications. Have a paper photocopy of your vaccination as well as a digital copy. I would have a USB with all of your important documents on it as well. And you should carry those copies in your carry-on baggage that you take with you up into your seat on the plane. Don't put it all in your luggage that gets checked through, because, as you know, sometimes luggage goes missing. So you don't want to have all your important things in the luggage that's gone to the other side of the world. Okay, I will cover that a little bit more in this one. When you're coming into Australia, there are very, very strict restrictions on what you can bring into Australia. So our Australian customs people are very mindful that they don't want any biosecurity compromises by people bringing food or plants or seeds into the country. Please take a look at the website there. I'll get Avnish. Oh, yes, I think you've just shared that. Excellent. Share that link in the chat, please, Avnish, because people need to be mindful. Things like preserved fruit, nuts, anything like that. You need to declare it all on the card that you'll be given when you come into Australia. So just please be mindful of that. I mentioned this before. Make copies of everything that you need to bring, including any health documents, education. Have hard paper copies and digital copies of it. If you can, have them translated into English. So if they're not in English at home. What you need to bring to live in far north Queensland is fairly light clothing that's not too warm, because the weather here is particularly tropical. So we've had students coming from Canada who've put in the chat box, oh, hey, Louise, do I need to bring my ski jacket and my ski pants? The answer is no. Unless you plan on going skiing while you're here into another state or another country, you really don't need to pack that. You can hire that when you get here if you want to go skiing. So we would encourage you, though, to bring, if you have a traditional or particular customary costume that you wear for ceremonies at home, we would encourage you to bring that, because we do have a couple of important events where you would have an opportunity to wear that. So that's a really nice thing to do. And if you've got an adapter to adapt your electronics from your home, voltage, the electrical voltage in America is 120, I think, and we've got 240 here. So you'd need to bring an adapter for that. All this information is available right there, where the link has been posted into the chat around converting and voltage to your computer. I mentioned medicine before. Okay. Next topic is what to expect when you do arrive in Australia. And who is talking about this? Am I talking about
me, Lou. That's me.
What's you? All right, back to the lovely Linda.
All right, thanks, Lou. So the first thing we're going to talk about is travel requirements. Now, one student did ask about what it means to be vaccinated. So the one thing I will say is this has changed a lot over the last 2 years, and so you should double check before you leave. But as of today, currently you don't require a negative COVID test to enter Australia. You are required to wear a mask at all times in Australian airports, and probably on your flight as well. It will depend on which country and what your airline's regulation is. You should also check the regulations in your home country and any countries that you are transiting through to ensure you are meeting those requirements as well. You can follow updates from the Queensland Australian government because the Queensland is the state that JCU is located in, and the Queensland restrictions are sometimes different to other states. So check the Australian and the Queensland requirements. You do need to carry your proof of vaccination. with you, and there is a link I put in the chat before about how you can check what if you meet the definition of vaccinated, and there's a link there about how to get more information. But one point to make is that most vaccinations you need 2 doses. If you are due for a booster as a student visa holder, you can get a booster in Australia for free. All right. Now, what to expect when you first arrive in your first few days. Now, the weather, Lou talked about the weather a bit. Our May weather is usually beautiful. We're getting some unseasonal rain here in Townsville, but generally it's mid-20s. It's lovely and dry and cool. Well, cool for us, probably warm for you during the day. At nighttime, it can drop down to around 16, 20 degrees. And, you know, you might want to put on a cardigan or something, but the weather is generally very, very pleasant. If you were arriving in summer, it might be a bit of a shock because the humidity and the heat is quite intense at that time of year. The other thing to consider is jet lag. We encourage you to get here with a bit of time to recover from your jet lag. It can take it's around 1 to 2 time zones per day to recover. So if you have a 16-hour time difference, you can expect to feel the effects of jet lag for 8 to 16 days. So if you want to be fresh when you first start your studies, arrive a little earlier so you have time to recover. Now, one thing that will be quite strange for you when you arrive is the wildlife and noises at night. There's some pictures there of some of the animals that you might hear. The first one is a gecko. It's called an Asian house gecko, which is an invasive species in Australia, but it's everywhere now. So you can expect, living in North Queensland in the tropics, to have at least one gecko that lives inside your house with you, and they make little noises. The birds in the bottom right corner are called curlews, and the reason we include this slide is because when I asked some students, you know, what's one thing you wish you knew before you arrived, they said they'd wish they'd been warned about the birds, because the curlews, especially if you live on campus in Townsville, have a very haunting noise, which if you're not expecting it, can be a bit alarming the first time. We do have a lot of wildlife. We're very lucky to have such a wild campus, really. We have a lot of trees, and we're very close to the forest in Cairns and the bush in Townsville, which means that we get a lot of visitors. So it's lovely, but just be prepared to see wildlife just while you're walking around. Shopping in Cairns, the nearest shopping centre is the Smithfield Shopping Centre, which is a 2.5 kilometre distance from the campus. Now, you'll note that the shopping hours are perhaps shorter than you might be used to, especially if you're from a big city. In Australia, most of our shops close around 5:30 in the afternoon. We have what we call late night shopping at night, which means the shops close at 9 p.m. on one night of the week on Thursdays.
We do have our grocery store, Woolworths and Coles, where you can buy your food, tends to stay open a little bit later till about 9 during the week, but all your other shops are only closing up as in 7.
Yeah. In Townsville, our nearest shopping centre is Stockland, which is a little bit further than the Cairns one, but the bus that's available outside the student centre runs directly to Stockland. The other thing is getting around. Now, we have public transport, which is in the form of buses in both Townsville and Cairns. You can use the app available off TransLink, or you can use the Google Transit option on Google Maps. You need to use coins or small notes to pay the bus driver. They won't take a card and they won't take large notes. And Claire mentioned earlier that you are eligible for a discount as a student, and you can get your discount sticker from the student centre when you're on campus and have your student ID. Now, you can also get around by bike or on scooters or in a car. Now, especially in Townsville, Townsville is a very flat city mostly, so getting around by bike is very easy. And you can buy cheap bikes from some of the shops that are near campus, or you can buy second-hand bikes. Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree are good spots. When you're riding a bike, you have to consider that you're traffic and you need to keep left, and you also need to wear a helmet. You can ride e-bikes in Queensland. You can also ride e-scooters in Queensland. In Townsville, we have ones that you can hire for short periods of time. And if you are looking at buying a car, we'll talk about more about that at orientation. But a lot of people do drive here because the public transport isn't always meeting the needs of students, because if they've got their work, they've got a job, or they've got late lectures, sometimes it's easier to have a car. All right, I might throw to Lou because this part is very exciting. And if you haven't heard about it, you're going to be pleased.
Thanks, Linda. Okay, we're almost getting to the end, but this is a really important part, and it's an exciting initiative that JCU has put together just for this year. So you guys picked the right time to come to JCU. We have called it the Warm Welcome Relocation Grant. It's basically a $5,000 one-off cash payment for eligible commencing students. So if you are eligible and you're commencing with us, you will be able to receive this payment. Now, there are conditions, of course, like anything, and the information about all the eligibility criteria is on our website, and I'll ask Avanish to post the link to the warm welcome information on our website. But basically, if you're eligible, you need to attend our orientation, our International Student Orientation on the 27th of May, or come in and see us in person, and we can catch you up on that orientation if you absolutely can't make it, but we hope you can. You need to attend the orientation, and then we'll give you some paperwork to fill in, and you will be able to lodge that with us, and then the payment will come through after you've attended the orientation. There are some exclusions. So if you're a high degree by research student, or you're a sponsored student from either a government or a corporation, you are not eligible. But there's a lot of information there. Avanish has shared the link. So please go into the website and read through it. If you're eligible, we'll make sure you get the paperwork and you'll receive all of that when you arrive. If you are a current, or you were already at JCU and you had to go home because of COVID and now you're coming back, I'm not sure if we've got any of those students on the webinar with us today, but you fall into a slightly different category for the warm welcome, and you'll get a relocation allowance of $2,000 to help you relocate back to Townsville or Cairns. Again, all this information is on the website with all the criteria. You just need to read through it and make sure if you're eligible. So that $2,000 one is a different amount, obviously, to the grant. All right, that's really exciting news. So make sure you read up about that one, and you can see if you're eligible. All right, we are almost done. We've gone over this a couple of times already, so you're probably sick of hearing this information, but you really should attend the orientation. Great morning, lots of information. We follow it up with emails so that you don't feel like you have to write furiously and get everything down. You'll be assigned a mentor when you get here. They're existing international students who have already settled in and know all the tricks and all the tips and where to go for a great meal or where to get discounts as a student, and they'll take you on a campus tour if you'd like. We'll assign you with one of the mentors when you get here. So please make sure you can arrange to arrive in time for that orientation session. I mentioned just now, you'll get a mentor. We have come up with an amazing acronym. When I say we, I mean Alex, the guy that you saw on the slide earlier, the gentleman who works with me in Townsville. He came up with an acronym called CROCS, because in Australia, Australians refer to crocodiles as crocs. But we're not actually giving you a crocodile when you get here. We're assigning you to a mentor, and the CROC part stands for Champions Responsible for Orientating Commencing Students. See what we did there? and you'll get a crock. They're really friendly, knowledgeable, and they'll help you with a whole lot of things to settle into Australia and life at JCU. If you've got any questions, please pop them into the chat now, and we've probably got a minute or so we can go through any questions. Oops, I'll just go back there. Oh, I don't know what I've done. Okay. Any questions before we wrap it up today? Just give everyone a minute to type furiously. See, I told you we'd be done within the hour. We are good at keeping on time, Linda and Avnesh. No questions? Okay. Thanks, Anne. This recording will be sent out to you as a link and you'll be able to watch it. And as I said, share it with your family, go onto all those web pages and request to join all the Facebook groups. Honestly, there is so much information out there. We're really looking forward to meeting you in person. Can't wait to see you. And if that's it, we'll say goodbye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Avi, do you want to turn your camera on and say goodbye? There he is. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
See you, everyone. Bye.